This is the Rita Cosby Show.
Well, today, speaking of celebrities, we just played Caitlyn Jenner. It was a day for all right, Matthew McConaughey going to the White House. And I want to hear your thoughts on the Rita Cosby Show, what you thought of Matthew McConaughey. I'll just tell you personally, I've actually always been quite impressed with him. He's a huge supporter of the military. He seems to be sort of middle of the road. You almost can't really tell like where he is on the political aisle. And I thought actually today he sounded much more emotional, much more compassionate, much more, I thought, connecting than I've ever seen Joe Biden talk about gun control. I mean, I thought he was 20 times more effective for the issue of gun reform. We'll get into his policies in a moment. But I thought in terms of his delivery, at least he was human. He didn't sound like he was reading these sort of canned statements. Every time I see Joe Biden reading, it's like sentence number 1 says I should say this, and I shouldn't talk to this reporter, and I shouldn't do this, and I shouldn't do that. Joe Biden just seems like a walking DNC robot. And even right after the Uvalde shooting that happened, that was so horrible, the mass shooting at that school, you know, Joe Biden just went right to his DNC talking points. I thought he sounded just horrible and political. And I also thought it's a pretty sad testament to this president that they had to bring out Matthew McConaughey to be the messenger. Because guess what? The president sucks. So there was no way. He stinks. So they had to bring out somebody else to be the messenger of this because this president can't communicate. So I want to hear your thoughts on why you think the White House brought out McConaughey. Do you think he was effective in his message? And do you think his message about basically finding common ground, he didn't really condemn gun owners, which was refreshing to see because this White House seems to go guns, 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 goes after gun manufacturers, gun owners. They say the Second Amendment is an absolute. At least today, Matthew McConaughey talked about gun responsibility. And he said, listen, I've been talking to both sides. I've been talking to a lot of gun owners who just want to make sure that the guns are in the right hands. He didn't talk about surrendering your guns. So I actually thought he came across pretty reasonable, pretty effective, and I thought extraordinarily emotional. Take a listen. Here's one part where he talked about, because he is from Uvalde. He was born, he was raised there in Uvalde, Texas. And he said soon after that shooting happened, soon afterwards, he was in Uvalde comforting and meeting with the families because this mass shooting hit so close to home. Take a listen.
It's Ryan and Jessica Ramirez. Their 10-year-old daughter, Alethea. She was one of the 19 children that were killed the day before. Now, Alethea, her dream was to go to art school in Paris and one day share her art with the world. Ryan and Jessica were eager to share Alethea's art with us and said if we could share it, that somehow, maybe that would make Alethea smile in heaven. They told us that showing someone else Alethea's art would in some way keep her alive. Now, this particular drawing is a self-portrait, all right, of Alethea drawing with her friend in heaven looking down on her, drawing the very same picture. Her mother said of this drawing, she said, you know, we never really talked to her about heaven before, but somehow she knew. Alethea was 10 years old.
Wow. I thought that was really powerful and deeply sincere. And then I think one of the most dramatic moments was when he talked about the green Converse sneakers. His wife was with him. Matthew McConaughey's wife was there. And she had the actual green Converse sneakers with her and showed them in the White House briefing room. Take a listen.
We also met Anna and Danilo, the mom and the stepdad of 9-year-old Maite Rodriguez. Now, Maite wanted to be a marine biologist. She was already in contact with Corpus Christi University of A&M for her future college enrollment. 9 years old. Maite cared for the environment so strongly that when the city asked her mother if they could release some balloons into the sky in her memory, her mom said, "Oh, no, Maite wouldn't want to litter." Maite wore green high-top Converse with a heart she had hand-drawn on the right toe because they represented her love of nature. Camilla's got these shoes. Can you show these shoes, please? Wore these every day. Green Converse with a heart on the right toe. These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting.
Wow. I thought that was just a really powerful and emotional moment, and a moment that I think anybody watching could connect with. Not political, just talking about the tragic loss of life in his hometown and how moving it was for him. And then he got into some of the specifics where he talked about background checks, raising the age for assault rifles from 18 to 21, implementing a national waiting period for assault rifles. Also talking about red flag laws, talking about mental history. And he said, listen, I'm not talking about revoking the Second Amendment. He seems to have a lot of friends who are gun owners, and he seems to understand that. So I liked that part of him. I felt like he kind of was trying to find common ground. And this is what he said gun owners tell him.
Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment.
So what do you think of Matthew McConaughey's message? First of all, from a delivery standpoint, I thought it seemed sincere. I thought it was passionate. And I thought it was very heartfelt. So I thought that was great. In terms of what he's talking about, raising the age, the red flags, the mental health, I think there's probably some common ground in there. The question is, do you agree with that? Do you think there's common ground in there? He said, listen, far right and far left, you know, everybody has to figure out the common ground, and he thinks that there are more people in the common ground in the middle with what he's talking about than those who are on both sides of the fringe. Do you agree?